Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. We had somebody request, and we get asked often about our plumbing setup and what our thoughts are. So we're going to do a rundown on the plumbing on the trailer and just get a little more in-depth, maybe just quick and simple. So basic bulk tank systems here we got two 100-gallon True Clean chemical inductors. So we use these for mixing, so we can suck out of one and mix into the other, and then go switch back, and then when this one's done, then we can suck out of the other and back and forth, if that makes any sense. All right. So then we have two IBC totes, 330 gallons each. So that gives us 660 gallons of fresh water carrying capacity. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and add in another 100 gallons of fresh water in one of the chemical inductors to allow us, to pump into the other to mix. Leave one empty to mix and put 100 gallons. So that would give us another 100 gallons of fresh water capacity if we wanted to. So this is my fill port here, a quick fill. I got 2-inch plumbing. For our setup, we went with a 2-inch male coupler, but I recommend getting one of these made up. So this is a 2-inch female, so you snap that on there, and then that gives you a female coupler on your hose. That way, if a customer's got male on the end of his hose, then you can get matched up. Another comment I will throw out as well would be maybe if you run into it quite often, or you have a lot of large farms that use 3-inch plumbing, you may want to make an adapter to go from 2-inch to 3-inch. So we ran into that the other day, but the customer had one, and he got us hooked up. He had one right there ready to go. So I put a 2-inch cap on here, and that's hooked right to a 2-inch full port valve. So we can shut that off and not drain anything out of our hose. This is a 2-inch full port for so we can get the full flow through the hose. You want to pause that? Okay, so 2-inch plumbing from the valve here to our tanks. I guess before I move forward, I'll mention that I got enough here extra on our hose that we can actually loop it around, and we can go to the back of the trailer, or we can go to the left side of the trailer and fill. So that way, if I'm in a field or on the side of the road and somebody brings me water, I've got access to the left side of the trailer, the back of the trailer, and the right side of the trailer. So just kind of mentioning that. We usually sling that around there and bungee cord it up. So coming around, we're teed to the first tank, which these got the valves on them. So a 2-inch valve teed up to this one here, 2-inch valve, and then I've got a regular standard 2-inch valve here. So when we fill, with a high flow pump, we can shut that off, and that doesn't pressurize our rest of our system. So that shuts that off and fills these tanks. These are vented at the top. We just leave the vent open, and that works good there. So coming down the line, open our valve here for suction from our freshwater. Now we're getting into our freshwater pump, moving up to our chemical side. A little side note here, I've got just a small T and just a little garden hose with a little quarter turn valve here, just so we can have access to fresh water off the side of the trailer to wash our hands after everything is done up. So we usually have this here with some soap handy or something like that. So, okay, so now just for saving money purposes, and because this is just a 1-inch pump, I went ahead and downgraded to 1.5-inch hosing here to feed. This is just a Harbor Freight. I believe they're 3/4 horsepower, 1-inch pump. So this is 1 inch in and 1 inch out pipe thread. And so obviously on your suction side of your pump, you never want to starve the pump. So that's why I did 1.5 inches, so I always have more volume than what the pump will need on the suction side. And then here on the outside, we went down to 1 inch. So the majority of all of our plumbing from this point forward will be 1 inch black rubber EPDM chemical rated. So also, I'll make a note here, is the metal plug on top of the pump to replace the plastic ones. So it is the correct metric thread with the O-ring seal. We can put a link in the description for that if that is something that if you're interested, that replaces the plastic ones that tend to blow out after some hours of use. So at the time being, I just have the on-off switch here, right on, that comes on the pump, on the power cord. I just reach down and use this for the time being to pump up the fresh water into the tanks. So off of the pump on the pressure side for fresh water, I have the 1 inch, like I said, hose, and then I've got a small hose here. This is the freshwater hose that supplies freshwater pressure to my garden hose reel over there, which we'll show you in a minute. So, but that is teed off on there, no valves or anything special. So we'll climb up here and we'll move forward. We're inside the shed today. There's bad weather outside. We've got sleet, snow, rain, you name it, we've had it today. So if you get a little bit of that noise in the background, we apologize. But so we've got, moving forward, 1 inch up here to a 3-way valve. So this is fresh water, and you can see I just have it fixed here right to the bracket on the tank, and it's just hose clamped on there. That has actually worked out really well. It's very strong and sturdy, and it's well placed. So fresh water labeled here. This handle signifies if it's pointing to this one, it's going to fill to this tank. And if it's pointing down, it's going to be filling to the tank on the left. So pointing down to the tank on the left, pointing to the right, the tank on the right. So we'll put that down, and then it's going to come out the hose here, and then up to our freshwater supply on our tanks fill here. So again, 1 inch. And these are both copycat systems here between the tanks, nothing different. So we'll look at one and it'll just be the same on this tank as on this here. So 1 inch up here with another ball valve here. So I can watch my flow. This is a flow meter. So this is 1.5 inch flow meter, which we can put the link in the description for that. The reason we went with the 1.5 inches is because you need the 1.5 inches for the amount of gallons per minute that the pump is putting into the tank. So I forget what the ratings are of that, like 45 gallons per minute or something. The 1 inch flow meter does not have enough flow to regulate that much through it. So we have the 1 inch reduced down, and then that just comes into the top, and then that just dumps straight in. So 100-gallon cone tank, then we have the anti-vortex plate in the bottom. And since we're right here, this is our recirculation or our agitation hose over here. And I'll show you that circuit in a minute, but I figured since we were looking at this portion of the tank, we're here, we can take a look at it. So I have it coming in through the top. I just thought that bringing everything through the top would eliminate any possible leakage on the side. Again, like I said, very simple concept. We don't have a rinse system. We don't have, a jug cutter and all those other things in place here, but this has worked very well. So 1 inch recirculation coming in on this side, and I have it attached to a hose, so it just hangs down in there. So that way my agitation nozzle is at the lowest point possible, so it's not agitating in the liquid, so that it is agitating below the level of the liquid, so we're not creating more foam with any of the products that we're using. So, and then a little side note too is when you have your chemical gloves, you can reach in here and you can grab this, and actually run a tank cleaner through your agitation hose, and you can use that as a tank rinse and squirt that soap around in there. So that is a little trick I learned later on. So that's a little rundown of our mixing tanks. That's this side. The right tank is exactly the same. The flow meters are, they're actually an auto start and an auto off. So I'm gonna just leave that alone. That's getting annoying. So yes, once the water starts flowing through them, they'll automatically turn on, and then they'll auto shut off. And the display is right here. You can calibrate it and you can clear it. So my last run in there was 39.882 gallons, and hit that again to zero it. And then you can watch it, and then I got my hand right here on my valve. And once you get to where you need to be, you can shut that off. You don't need to be scrambling to find another valve or shut the pump off or whatever. So, okay. Let's say we got our tank filled, everything's mixed, and now we're down to the chemical suction side of things, so we come down here to the bottom of our tanks, and again, same left to right. I've got a 2-inch shut off here on the bottom of each tank as a safety precaution. That way, if we travel down the road and we may have some product in there, we're going to shut that off, and that's going to eliminate any issues of a spill or a blown hose, or if we have to disconnect the hose, we can shut that. You can keep that product in the tank. So both tanks are connected to a 3-way valve, which I would recommend making it a little bit easier to get to. For me, I just went with simplicity in mind, but I wish I would have actually mounted it out here where I could have reached it. So I kept it down low so that the gravity feed, our pump, can always work in our favor. I wouldn't want to put the valve up top because then you can end up with an airlock. But so we got an arrow here, and we can 3-way valve, switch from which side to side we're working on. So let's say we just mixed up the tank to the left. So then we switch that arrow to the left, and the pump will suck from the tank to the left back to my chemical pump. And these are 1.5 inches down here, 1.5 inches hose down there. And that comes over to our chemical pump over here. So, which this is just the small Harbor Freight 1-inch pump. So again, it's 1-inch inlet and 1-inch outlet. But again, the same principle, you never want to starve the suction side, so we installed an 1.5 inch hose and plumbing right up to the port on the pump. I'm not going to disconnect that because we've got antifreeze in there. Because of the cold temps we went ahead and winterized a few things. So we'll disconnect here on the suction side and a disconnect here on the pressure side. So if we do have a failure with our pump, I've got another pump with us. It's a very simple, quick, easy swap out, ready to go. So this pump works great. We do like the gas pump for the all day running. And then the flow regulating, you can use the throttle to get the flow that you want. So, and this works good for a 1-inch hose. On the pressure side of the pump, cam lock coupler, again, like I said, to disconnect the pump. 1 inch here goes over to our 1-inch hose reel that we have mounted. It's bolted right to the deck. The reason we put it right here is because we can operate on the ground with the hose reel, or all we got to do is pull it up and send it through the hole in the floor up there, and we can bungee cord it, and then it rides up on the floor up top. So, so that's the chemical fill for the drones. Also teed off of the pressure side of the pump, again, is 1-inch hose here. back to the tanks, and then we'll go over to the front there and I'll show that. So that way we don't have our deadhead pressure on the pump from the fill hose. It comes back over to here to our agitation recirculation valve. Same concept over here is our freshwater. When pointed to the right, it's going to send the recirculation to the tank on the right, down to the tank on the left. And then we have, this is the incoming flow into the three-way valve, and we can regulate our flow. So down would be full open, would be full flow to the tank on the left or to the tank on the right. So you just have to keep in mind where you're recirculating when you're, if you're mixing into another tank, that you're not getting unproperly mixed batch. So like I had back to here, we'll show a little bit on the freshwater side. Like I said, here's the T, and then I just have a freshwater hose here going to a freshwater hose reel here. So this is super handy. I think this is maybe like 100 feet, I believe. And the chemical 1-inch hose is 50 feet, and this is 100 feet. So we can take this up through the stairway to rinse down or fill drones up top to clean, or we can go out and around, down on the ground, the back of the trailer, whatever we need, and we're done. We pull that in. I do have it right here, and I can jug rinse. I can rinse the inside of the tanks, and as long as we've got, you know, just a garden hose nozzle on here, fire nozzle type here, adjustable, then we don't have any issues of anything leaking when the pump is on to fill these tanks. The flow is just shut off there. So we pull that back, and that just sits right there, fairly handy. And I think that that's about it. We can come over here real quick, I guess, to finish up. Like I had said, a 1-inch hose here. We have this is actually a fuel transfer hose, and it came with this swivel fitting on here. So something similar you would see at the gas station, or you know, diesel fuel nozzle is this swivel. That's actually quite handy, we found out, for filling the drones. That way you can kind of adjust your nozzle how you want it, and it's not kinking, it's not you know, getting all tangled up with the hose. So this did come with auto shut off fuel nozzle, but we opted to take it off and go with the ball valve style turn here. We weren't liking what we were getting with the speed, the flow out of that. Plus it was adding extra foam into our tank with a mixing action going on inside the nozzle. So, so we went with a 1-inch ball valve, and we had made a little adapter nipple here on the end of it to fit into our quick fill caps on the T40s and T50s, but that's not so much a problem anymore with the newer drones, the T100 and the J150, that have the bigger inserts there for in the caps for the fills. So we can actually start going with bigger nozzles. So, and that pretty much finishes that up. So thanks for following along. Leave a comment if you've got any other questions, or have anything you'd like us to elaborate on. But this should be a little quick overview of our plumbing system here on our trailer. Thank you.